This is According to Callus, and this is going to be the episode I should have done on Wednesday. However, life got in the way, as they say. And for the next couple Wednesdays, I'm going to be working on a book review. This book is The 444 Plan, or 444, if you will, by Rene Holaday, also known as Lady Liberty. I don't know how long it's going to take to go through it, but there's roughly 10 chapters, and it wasn't what I expected. It was a little different, and it's a very short, easy read, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out part of the game plan here, and I'm going to probably stay short tonight just because life in the way. I mean, it's busy time of year. Next week, I'm going to be taking I'll do a Monday episode probably, and then I'm going to probably take the rest of the year off. Just need some downtime, need to take a break. And from there, then we'll look at what do we need to do next. So, until I finish the book, the Wednesday episodes will likely be dealing with the book. Monday will deal with mostly political stuff. Fridays will be just like a recap of what's happened during the week, and then I'm going to work on making my shorts. I'm going to do the I'll let you tomorrow. You'll get the first episode, but Tuesdays I'm going to continue on with the You Might Be a Statist for just a little while longer until something else strikes my fancy. So, chapter 1 begins with, what do we do in communist coup America? Well, now this lady's written a first book, which apparently is quite a bit longer and does a lot of research and a lot of background information. So I guess perhaps I'll need to order her first book and read that. It is called The Perils of Sustainable Development. I would recommend that if we want to follow along, perhaps you read this. In any case, she's just talking about the idea that there's essentially a communist takeover. Now, let me be upfront. While I believe she can be entirely accurate, the use of the term communist unfortunately causes a lot of folks to roll their eyes and quit paying attention. If I were to substitute the word progressive, a good number of you might pay attention, and unfortunately, you would also miss the significance of what is going on here. So, in my mind, progressive is now largely synonymous or interchangeable with socialist and perhaps even full-on communist. But in either case, they want to destroy the Republican form of government. And by Republican, I mean the small r, not the capital R party. So, when we look at this, the layout of the book is going to give you a kind of an overview of what's coming. So let me just read the chapter headings here. Sorry. So chapter 2 is going to be the foundation. Chapter 3, the Great Commandment. Chapter 4, about the communist coup, or progressive coup, if you want to use my word. Chapter 5, the Constitution in Articles 4, Section 4, which, in case you didn't know, is where it's guaranteed a Republican form of government. Chapter 6 is going to be the fourth branch, we the people. That's where we've fallen asleep, if you want my opinion. Chapter 7 is going to be recommitting to God and to America. In other words, we the people have to get our act together. Chapter 8, identifying and charging the criminals. Chapter 9, prosecuting the criminals. And Chapter 10, get rid of the electronic voting machines. So, the Chapter 1, we're going to go back to Chapter 1 for just a few minutes. So we're talking about the idea where Tony Blair basically said there's communism, there's capitalism, and now there's sustainable development. Now, I will tell you, years ago, I actually was kind of a fan of the idea, or what my idea of sustainable development was. But it's not what it appears to be, and it's certainly not what I thought it was. And while I would strongly encourage people to look at the way that permaculturists look at things. And I would strongly encourage people to think about how do we regenerate that which we already have, right? This is more of, we're going to tell you words that you want to hear in order to sell you a plan that you didn't ask for. So she says that the communists, and the Chinese for that matter, or the UN if you prefer, have been working hard for the last 30 or 40 years in the United States. And both of them are progressive or communist. And they have a plan, and they're implementing this plan, and unless we find a way to fight back against this plan, we're going to get eaten alive by the plan. Now, she has 15 years of leadership and different community things, and she also talks about, different functions and different things that need to be done. And her first criteria has been serve the people in a biblical and legal manner and never ask anyone to do anything that I would not do. I find this very interesting because this is kind of how I've always led and managed other people. So, and honestly, this is kind of a similar mindset to NCOs in the military. I had more than one guy that was a petty officer above me that would have the same attitude. Kellis, I'm not going to ask you to do anything I haven't done myself, and I won't be afraid to show you how to do it or get down there. Yeah, I mean, it was very much a mindset, right? Good leadership. And the second criteria is to be strategic in the way that we will build the necessary mass momentum that every effort needs, according to a strategically timely manner that will accomplish the primary goal through many small and incremental goals. In other words, you can't eat the elephant all at one sitting, but one bite at a time you can. And yes, that is a double entendre. So that is the introduction, if you will, to chapter 1. She goes on to discuss ideas taken from the art of war, laying the plans. And then she talks about how to regain control. Now, this is just kind of a rehash of the 10 chapter headings, okay? And I don't begrudge her that because I know in communication you have to say the same thing 2-3 times before people will pay attention or remember it. So, again, the book is 444. And we will see how this goes on to describe where we are, how we got here, and how do we get out of this. And I guess as I approach the 10-minute mark, I want to be purposely short. I want to just whet the appetite, lay it out. Talks about how Gandhi was able to successfully kick out the British Empire, and to think of our goals as guerrilla activism, that we can legally reclaim our nation one state at a time. The guerrilla activism tactic could very well be the only chance we have because every military strategist knows that in the war front landscape, the sheer size of America, from any sort of logistical coordination perspective, is daunting at the very least. And that only 6% of the American landmass is developed, and 77% of the population lives in urban or suburban areas. So 96% of the land is open. I think that should be 94, but that's okay. I think you get the idea here. And strangely enough, the American federal government owns mass quantities of land that they really have no authority constitutionally to own. So she talks about her story, how Hannibal conquered Rome, but yet never conquered Rome. And how as a result, Rome learned how to fight war like Hannibal and then turned around and took it to him. So that's going to be the end. That's a recap, if you will, of chapter 1. That's laying out where she's going to go with this. I think what I'll do is I'll do 3 more episodes, probably about 25 or 30 minutes each, going over 3 chapters each. The idea is I want to spread the message, but encapsulate it into little bite-sized chunks. And I would encourage you to go read her previous book, because a lot of what is going to be discussed in this, she probably explains in greater detail to where it'll make more sense and certainly put an impetus for you to act and understand what's going on. So I think we're going to call this a Review Wednesday, right? Even though it's happening on a Thursday. And I'm going to probably title it Review Wednesday and then just put the book in there, just so it's easier to find. And we're going to kind of change up, when I say I'm going to kind of change up what I'm doing on a day-by-day basis to feed into different niches and try and build the audience, an audience that I need. I mean, it doesn't do any good to do all this work if there's nobody to hear what you're saying. And it doesn't do any good if the people that hear it don't act on it. So this is where I ask you politely, share the show, like the show, follow the show, download the show. For whatever reason, Podbean really only counts downloads. They don't they don't count the listens. So I really don't have a good measure of how many people are listening on a daily episode. If I were to estimate, I think I'm halfway to 100, which after 10 months is not that great, but it takes time. You have to work at it. You have to build your audience. So I've got 100 and some odd episodes out, and as we go forward, we'll continue to articulate different things. So this is going to count as episode 165, right? Review Wednesday. And we're going to work on some books. We're going to review them as time goes on for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to do my best to make it worth your while to check in with me at According to Callus. This is the Review Wednesday. This is episode 165, and I will see you on the other side.